Hello, everybody, and welcome into our latest live broadcast. Today it is Wednesday, the 10th of July, 2024. My name is Carey Holzman, and thank you so much for joining me today. We do have our chat room limited to members only, and this everybody in the public can watch the video live. We're just limiting our live interactions to members only, and that's to ensure that the people who are supporting the channel do get my attention and are able to interact with me. So often the chat gets a little crazy. People get in there for the wrong reasons. They disrupt, they distract, or they don't really understand what's going on before they immediately start participating in a way that's not acceptable. So this has been, I think, the best way to incentivize others to help support the channel. I mean, we have a couple of options. We can become a corporate sponsored channel, and I can read a script that they write for me that I'm obligated to say or I don't get paid. Or we can throw 1,000 commercials in every single video, and if people skip them, the video won't generate any money and that won't be sustainable. Or people can sign up for YouTube Premium, which of course will eliminate the commercials for the free videos. Or we offer multiple tiers of memberships that limit the benefits of the membership. So we're going to try this out. I hope it's going to be functional this way, and I hope everybody understands. These videos do cost a lot of money to make, and so I'd like to continue making them full time as a main revenue source. But if YouTube continues down the path, we're just doing what we can to just keep moving forward. It's nothing personal. It's nothing against anybody. We're just trying to keep making videos. And the alternate, of course, is to just move on to something else. But I don't want to do that. So we move on. Thank you to all the members joining us in the chat. Thank you so much for your support. You guys are the reason why this channel continues to exist and produce the amount of content that it does. Of course, with a special shout out to our friend Peter Laycock, Buster out there in Scotland, who's been an incredible supporter to us. Now today I've got a mini PC sent to us from Geekom for review. And I was starting the show a little late today, maybe a minute or two late, because well, some of you may see this as familiar. However, it still may be new, and I have to walk off camera to finish what I was starting off camera. And let me just step over here for a minute. Let's go this way. Oh, it's hot. Okay. And the reason I want to do this again, and again, for some of you, you may never have seen this before. Ooh, so they got there just in time. This is a grilled cheese sandwich. You're like, what does this got to do with a Geekom GT13? I'm going to show you. This guy is really hot. But I want you to take a look at something as a reference point, right? Sandwich bread, to understand the size and scale of the mini PC I'm about to show you. So let me get the sharp objects out of the way before anybody gets hurt. Taken care of, and oh, I should probably grab something to drink. Okay, now, I know this is a weird comparison, but I try to think about what can we compare this to? What is it similar to that most people worldwide would have a reference point to? Now, granted, I mean, bread comes in different shapes and sizes and thicknesses, so this is just an overall concept. The mini PC we're about to look at is a flagship 12900H. Now, they do make an i7 version of it as well, Intel-based, obviously. And we're going to get into the details of that in just a minute. What I want to convey before we get started, and the excitement and the enthusiasm that I want to share with you, is if this is a grilled cheese sandwich, this is probably faster than the computer you're using right now to watch this video. Much faster for many of you, and very affordable and very well equipped. I think the sandwich is bigger. Maybe I shouldn't have cut it. And of course, the plate dips down, so we're not getting the thickness there. Is that's really hot. Let me bring this up close so you can get an idea. I know this looks a lot like the A7 and the A8 that we've shown previously. This is smaller. The dimensions on this are super tiny. If you look, we've got our two, come on camera, is it gonna focus for me? Two USB 3 ports and headphone jack and power button up front. We have a full-size SD card reader on the side, nothing on the other side. And in the back, we've got our standard barrel-style power connector, our two HDMI ports, USB 2, USB 3, and these two, I believe those are what, USB 4, 40 gig per second ports that also work as display port. So accessing the bottom of this, we'll get into that. I'm getting greasy fingerprints on it from handling the sandwich. The downside of this particular comparison, but they'll just wipe right off. So you'll notice everybody's name in the chat is green, and that's because all moderators have been removed. That's another update. There was some confusion with members only chat allowing the moderators in, and some people's moderator status. Well, let's just put it to you this way. The moderator status is no longer useful. We, of course, have the lovely Marlena doing all of our administrative work. And so while I appreciate all of the efforts of people helping out with the trolls and such in the live chat as we have evolved our way to where we are today, Mara's got that under control, and there's no benefit to being blue anymore. I mean, aside from the stature of the blue name, it doesn't really hold any value. It's surprising to me how many people came in that were complaining they used to be blue, but it took them 8 weeks to figure out that they weren't blue anymore, because the only way you would know that is if you were participating in the chat room. So this eliminates that problem and makes it fair for everybody. I think this is the only fair way to do this. And we're just experimenting here. I'm hoping this is going to work out for us, but I'm hoping this will be the new standard, but we'll see how it goes. Now, of course, if YouTube changes reevaluates, I should say, the value of the content creators and starts paying them fairly again, we won't have to do this. But we're sort of at a fork in the road where we either need to significantly reduce the amount of content we're making to maybe no more than one video a week or every other week, or we need to find a way to bring in the revenue so that we can continue to make videos on a regular basis, or don't make videos at all. So we have a certain amount of money to work with, and that money over the years has gotten smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. YouTube is just reducing the value further and further, even though the channel continues to grow and grow. And that's a main obstacle to creating the content. It's not me not wanting to do it or having nothing to do. It's the expense. So this is what we're trying. And we certainly appreciate all of you who make this possible. And I do hope the public who watches for free appreciates your contribution, because they wouldn't have the content to watch if not for you guys in the chat room. So, and the members who aren't in the chat room. So again, a massive amount of gratitude for the community making this possible for all of the free viewers. Okay, where did my live chat go? Here we go. There's our friend. Oh, wait a minute. I think I'm on the wrong video. Bear with me for just a moment as I try and figure out what happened to my video. Oh, I see. I wasn't on the right tab. That'll do it every time. YouTube exclusive. That's us right there. Come on. Great. Eat that. Great. That is not working. Let me come over here and see that we're working over here. Yeah, I see I'm live. Okay. Phew. It might be my greasy fingertips aren't registering on the screen. Grilled cheese, why must you be so delicious and destructive? What is happening? Go back. It will not let me in. That's Crazy. Again, the public can watch the videos, so there's no reason why I shouldn't be able to bring that up. There I am, finally. Okay. Okay, so this thing is a powerhouse, this Geekom GT13 Pro. And we have some links in the video notes, as always, including discount codes if you're interested in picking one up. But just wait till you hear what this thing has packed under the hood, and wait till you see the price. Mark Gaines renews his membership, now a member for 26 months. Says hello, Carey, Marlena, and everyone in chat. Thank you, Mark, joining us from Northern Ireland. We've got some new members, Mark Staley, Alan Latz, and Mike Ely. Right on. Thanks, guys. David Graham joins us, as does Luke Greenia, Charles Aslick. Thank you to Jose Lopez for your $2 super chat. Ben Laird joining us from Scotland, as well as Joe Martin saying hello in the chat room. Dwayne Blackwelder and Ron Barnish, Stealth Mode and 3D Everything, and Gary Tatum. And Matthew Burden all say hello. There's Charles Purdy, Dean Summersheim, Jit, and Chico48. You guys rock. Thank you guys so much. All right. I can't sit here and look at this any longer. I have to make sure that this is okay. I went a little fancy with the sourdough bread, the little imported cheddar cheese that's been aged for 18 months. Mr. Big Shot, huh? Let's go over to the Geekom page. Let's see how Geekom is promoting this. The Geekom GT13 Pro. Now, I believe this just recently came out. It may not yet be available on Amazon, the i9 version. So if Amazon says it's not available, it's because it's that new. I don't think it's ever been available. So we're getting a first look at it here. Now, there are two versions of this, the i9 13900H and the i7 13620H. Of course, it's got the Intel Xe graphics, which are part of the CPU, with two USB 4 ports and two HDMI 2.0 ports. It also has Bluetooth 5.2 and Wi-Fi 6E. As we scroll down, you're going to see the, this is interesting. So last night I turned this on and went through the process of, the out-of-box process of, out-of-box experience process of Windows 11. And I did have to use the Shift F10 bypass NRO command. Otherwise, it's a regular default Windows 11 install. But what was different about it is when it said it was getting ready to, prepare the computer. When you get that screen, it says, when you finished answering the questions, we're setting up Windows for you. It'll be a minute. It had this really cool background animation that I'd never seen before. But, I mean, not that that's a big deal. Just stuck out to me because I'd never seen, I wasn't aware that manufacturers could change that background. All right, a little bit of information about what's inside. We've got either an i9 13900H, that is the model we have. That's a 14-core, 20-thread processor. You can also buy a cheaper version of the i7 13620H, which is a 10-core, 16-thread processor. Either way, you're going to get the Intel Iris Xe graphics, 4K display support, the Wi-Fi 6E, the Bluetooth 5.2. Their IceBlast 1.5 is their cooling technology. It's got an M.2 Gen 4 x 4 solid state drive, NVMe drive, and DDR4 RAM, because this is 12th gen, not 13th and later. So that's expected. It's dual channel. And they're using the sort of industry standard 3200 speed on that. Now, the processor with 14 cores and 20 threads is the i9. It has 8 efficiency cores. It has a base frequency of 1.9 gig, and it turbos up to 4.1. And the other 6 cores are performance cores with a base frequency of 2.6 gig and a turbo of up to 5.4, which is crazy. All right, CPU benchmarks. These are the numbers that they're providing, comparing each generation of flagship processors, 10th, 11th, 12th, and 13th. We're on the 12 with this model. Now, they do show this being used for gaming. Here they're showing Forza. They're showing it used for streaming, such as Peaky Blinders and whatever this is. And then if we continue to scroll down, there's a look at the inside, which shows it has a second NVMe slot that's going to be a 2242 slot, which I'm not a big fan of 2242 in a mini PC or a desktop. But I understand when space restrictions are there, it's better than nothing. If I wanted to add more storage to a mini PC, I'd just use those fast USB ports and not limit myself to having to open it up and be restricted to the size of the NVMe, let alone adding more heat into the mini PC, especially a flagship one, which you know is going to run hotter than a lower end model. A little bit more about those ports I showed you earlier. The single black USB port is a USB 2. The one above it is 3.2 Gen 2. And in the front, those are both 3.2 Gen 2. Interestingly, the first one here on the left supports power delivery. Not quite sure how that works on Type A connector, but I guess. It does support 4 monitors at 4K simultaneously, or a single 8K display. Yeah, that's insane. I don't even know what you would do with 8K. You'd have to have better eyes than mine to appreciate the minuscule detailed fonts. Obviously, you can change that, but that is a lot of desktop real estate. Multiply 1080 times 8. Wow. All right. Anyway, transfer data up to 40 gigabits per second, charge and power external devices. You also have the option to hook it up with an external graphics card using one of the USB 4 ports. Well, I suppose that's true, yeah. I don't see anything about the networking port. The Ethernet port is that. Does it say what it is? A little bit about the cooling. Let me scroll back up. Hold on a second. I wasn't paying attention. I wasn't thinking about it. Yep, there goes my mouse. Back up to the... it's done it again. Where are the ports? It just says RJ45. It doesn't tell me if that's a 1 gig or a 2.5, or who makes it, if it's Realtek or Intel. All right, well, we're going to find out here momentarily. It does come with Windows 11 Pro. Generally speaking, the mini PCs are all going to be Windows 11 Home. I think Minis Forum is the only one that universally across the board does that. I'm not sure why, but I don't want you guys to get confused with the different manufacturers. So Geekom is typically using Windows 11 Pro. They've done all these different tests to this thing to torture test it to make sure it'll work fine in your environment. And then we've got more specifications right here that you can look at. Just taking a look here in the chat. Lou Greenia says, now I'm hungry, dang it. Gary Tatum wants to know if I think we'll ever reach speeds that make not pairing it with dedicated GPU kind of a waste. Well, yes and no for two reasons. Well, let me switch back over to camera one here. There's two things I think that we're going to see happen. One is I think gaming as we know it is going to shift. And the interest in gaming is also going to shift. And depending on the kind of game it is and how that game processes will determine if the amount of graphics chip power is going to need to be more or less than what we're even using today. It's quite possible that a genre of game comes out like an RPG style game that the graphics don't really matter that much. And so earlier GPUs could become much more sought after as more valuable. Also, as we move and shift into more AI controlled things, that could change gaming as we know it. What we're defining as gaming today, like first person shooters and such genres, may change into something completely outside of our familiarity. And then it might require more of an NPU than a GPU. Also, the interest of the public may wane on PC gaming because it gets too expensive. The games are too easy to solve or too buggy. They come out too soon and people have had enough. The console will always be the console. I think as far as PlayStations and Xboxes go, they've got a pretty solid future. But PC gaming, I'm not quite sure the benefit of PC gaming is in better graphics, but in more complex games with more control with a keyboard that wouldn't really run smoothly on a console today. But that, of course, could change as well. So puzzle games like Riven or Myst, things like that, where the graphics aren't really that important. But the games could be so much more in depth, along with AI making replaying the game a totally different experience every time, giving that game more value. So it's really hard to say what's going to happen because there's three factors at play, four factors at play. One are the GPU manufacturers and how much more they can get out of it and to what benefit and for how much money. Two, you have the interest of the public. Three, you have the advancement of AI and how that's going to redefine what we know today as games. And four, public interest in playing games in general may just be decided it's not worth it. Or the generation that follows, Gen Alpha, may not have much interest, may see that as a big waste of time. I mean, kids are always interested in playing games, but it may not, again, be the kind of games that we play. And they might see those games as like, the games the boomers play, anybody older than them, So in any event, that's my thought. And I could be completely wrong. I don't think we're going to see more of the same much longer. I think there's going to be a massive shift in how we define these things will change. And therefore, the market will respond accordingly. Right on, Captain Blinsky joins us. Avery Ramsdorf joins us. Chris Johnson renews membership. Thank you for that. And Captain Blinsky says, I just wanted to be my favorite color. Right on. When I started playing games on TRS-80 at Radio Shack, the game I played was a text-based RPG adventure game called Zork. I couldn't get enough of it. There were no graphics. You had to read. I am surprised at how reluctant kids are today to pick up a book and read it when they're just reading online all day. It's not like they're not reading. So I don't understand the disconnect. But, reading and the book sales are something, reading with regards to books with the younger generation is not very popular compared to the older generations. And yet, books are quite often the best form of media, in my opinion, when compared to movies or television shows or cartoons. The book is always better. But if you've never read a book, how would you know what you're missing if you've never had it, right? So we have a whole generation that's just ignorant of it. And they don't know what they don't know. And it's unfortunate. But the good news is, they always have time to discover this amazing world while they're alive. At some point in their life, they might want to give it a shot. And book sales are still driving enough sales that books are still, being written and sold, and it's just not like it used to be. On the other hand, being able to read the books electronically, like with a Kindle or, with a Kindle app on your phone, makes books a lot lighter to carry around, and you can have an entire library with you as you travel. So, all right. William Denton with a $19.99 super chat. Also a PayPal contribution from William late yesterday. Thank you, William. Thank you for supporting the channel. There's Patrick Ali saying hello. And stealth mode. I don't know if I mentioned stealth mode earlier. Bajan Guy, Ghetto Fortnite, all joining us. Raj D says hello. Let's see. Are there other questions here? All right, so with Amazon, you can buy the product. I should probably get my greasy fingerprints off of it. And that way you have, you're rest assured with your peace of mind with any possible reason for returning. Different people like different things for different reasons. And so we want to make sure that when I'm talking about things here, that I want to instill some peace of mind that if I thought the product was shady or that you could possibly be ripped off, we wouldn't even bother covering it. We might talk about it to make you be aware of this in the marketplace, but I wouldn't dedicate a show to it. We've been working long enough with Geekom. They're very respectable mini PC manufacturer. And I don't think I've seen a Geekom mini PC I didn't like. But still, buying it from Amazon, you still get that peace of mind just in case, for any reason at all. You don't have any issues with returning it. And Amazon's usually really, really quick with the shipping. So let's take a look at the Amazon page for the 9th gen, the i9, and see what that status is. Let's go here. Okay, so 13th gen, 32 gigs of DDR4, a 2 terabyte Gen 4 solid state drive. I don't know, is that what they sent us? They sent us a 13900 with 32 gigs of RAM and a 2 terabyte drive. Yeah, wow, it's a 2 terabyte drive. That's cool. It looks like it's got 1 rating so far, so it's brand new, and I'm wondering if anybody was able to buy this or if this came from a reviewer, got it for free, and they didn't really say anything about it. That's not too helpful. All right, well, we're going to find out about it firsthand. Then there's the i7 version, a little bit cheaper. And this is 32 gigs of RAM, but a 1 terabyte NVMe, both with Windows 11 Pro. They both have a coupon code. And we have coupon codes in our video notes. So if you use them, you save money and you help support the channel at the same time. And this has 148 ratings, so this one has obviously been out for a while. And you can see the 3 out of 4 people who buy it love it. Couldn't give it a higher rating. That's really, really good. One person here has had an issue with reliability. And they may have a bad unit. They may have a unit that was damaged in shipping. And this is something that they should contact Geekom about for getting a warranty replacement. Or if this were to happen within the first 30 days of purchase, which this shows July 7th, which is just a couple days ago, they would be able to return this or exchange it at Amazon trouble-free at no cost. Just to verify, does this happen on another one, or did something happen in shipping that maybe caused some damage? Because that's usually when damage occurs, when a product arrives that doesn't work, how did that product get through quality control? So something likely happened during the shipping process. Remember, in the USA, these are built in like China. They've got to go on a slow boat to the US through customs into the distribution warehouse or wherever you bought it, let's say Amazon. From the distribution warehouse, then it may be shipped to another distribution warehouse, depending on where you live and where you ordered it from. And then from there, the local carrier to your front door. So there's a lot of people handling this between the time the manufacturer, the time it leaves the manufacturer's factory until it arrives at your front door. Now, usually they're packed well enough that that's not typical, but it does happen. But I wouldn't necessarily think that the product itself is bad, because otherwise, how would the company stay in business if every one they sold resulted in a customer experience that was similar to what that one-star review described? So as we can tell from the number of reviews, they don't represent the majority. And that's really what I'm looking for. I absolutely want to see some one-star reviews. Otherwise, it makes me skeptical if the reviews are real or not. Some people have unrealistic expectations, don't consider that it may have been damaged in shipping, or are just very difficult people to please. And there's always going to be those people. So if you're seeing a product that's only 5-star reviews, they're only glowing reviews, I would be very skeptical about how genuine those reviews were. And then when I see the 1-star reviews, I want to kind of weigh in how many of those are there versus the positive ones, and how many reviews are there in total. So we don't really have any reviews worth even considering on this yet. We're early. So we don't have any predefined expectations, other than I can tell you I turned this on last night and I was really impressed. I didn't expect this to be this tiny coming out of this box. So you can tell that's packed really well. Let's get it hooked up, see what it'll do. This is our power brick. Let me bring it up to the camera here and I will show you the voltages on this. Now it says, we bring this up here, Hyleton. So that's the company that makes the power brick. There is nothing that says Geekom on this. So if what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a label maker or my silver Sharpie and write Geekom, because this barrel connector could fit into, how many times have we shown this barrel connector? But what's coming out of this barrel connector is likely not compatible with all the other machines that this would fit in. Maybe some of them, but not all of them. And I wouldn't want to risk sending the wrong amount of voltage or the wrong polarity to a multi-$100 mini PC because I was guessing which power adapter was which. So in my opinion, all manufacturers should have the name on the unit. And if they don't, it's easy for you to fix that, because if the mini PC and the power adapter, or anything that takes a barrel power connector that can fit into multiple devices, gets separated from the device it plugs into, good luck. Good luck. It's going to require you looking up what the voltages are supposed to be and the amperages, and then looking at every adapter you've got to see what matches and make sure the polarity is the same. It's very time consuming versus just grabbing the plug that fits. You cannot just grab the plug that fits when you got barrel connectors. They're just too common, and there's no standard for voltages, amperages, or polarity. All right, so we're going to give that some power. We'll plug in our network here, and then we're going to grab our HDMI cable, and then my keyboard and mouse. Now, really, the keyboard and mouse should be plugged into the USB 2 port in the back of the machine. I have a habit of always plugging it into the front, and part of the reason is so I don't forget to unplug it when I'm putting it all away at the end of the day. So let's go over to our HDMI input, and we'll grab camera 1 here and put it in a corner like this. Okay. And now I'm going to turn it on. We can check our boot time, listen for fan noise. I turn it on. I haven't given it power. I always do that, don't I? This is a cloverleaf power cable. I didn't tell you what the voltages were, did I? $19-volt, 6.32 amps. So we're going to see a lot of 19-volt barrel style power connectors when it comes to powering mini PCs and laptops, though there's no rule that says they have to use that. And there's depending on how powerful of a machine is, it's going to need a higher amperage power delivery. So even if you don't damage the unit by plugging in a power adapter that doesn't provide enough power, it can create a lot of confusion thinking something's wrong with the unit when you've simply confused the power adapter. That's a best case scenario. All right, let's try it out. 3, 2, 1, go. All right, so we're all live, unrehearsed, unscripted, and what you see is happening in real time, so it gives you an idea of what our boot time is. So I did run the Windows 10 optimizer, and I did run Crystal Disk Mark and copy over the utilities, and that's all and I've put all the updates, Windows updates on it. That's it. Everything else I've been saving. I was just trying to get rid of the most frequently time-consuming things where we have to sit here and wait. So now if I go to, let's go to the Start button, right-click and choose System. We can verify what CPU we have. Sorry, this is a 13th. I kept thinking it was 12. This is a 13th gen. Did I say 12? My bad. This is a 13900H. So the fact that they say it's got DDR4s, I'm confused. I might need to pay closer attention between the i7 and the i9. Were they both 13th gen? Okay, so 13900H. This is actually better than look, I already thought it was great as a 12900. I've been mistaken here, so I apologize. 13900. That is a screamer. Okay. That's why I need to double check things. Yeah, Windows 11 Pro 23H2. We want to make sure that we are activated. Let's just check that. Yep, we are activated. Is my camera blocking? Yeah, my camera's blocking. Let's get the camera out of the way. You don't need to look at me. You're welcome. All right, back over to full screen for me. And let's close that out and let's go to the device manager. We want to make sure that there's no unknown devices. That would be terrible to get a brand new machine direct from the manufacturer that didn't load all the drivers for you. We do see that once in a great while. So because it's happened before, I always check it. We can also take a look at our network adapter here. We have what? MediaTek is the Wi-Fi, and Intel is the Ethernet, the i225V. This is of some concern for Linux users who may not have drivers for like MediaTek on the Wi-Fi, but you should be fine on the wired. I'm not a Linux user, nor is this channel work with Linux. That's just not what we do here. So you'd have to find a different source if that was your thing, to get that kind of information. Let's go to, let's see, the Crystal Disk Mark information. These were our results from last night when I ran Crystal Disk Mark. And as you can see, we're on the high end of Gen 4. Gen 4, we've seen speeds as high as 7,300 megabytes per second on the sequential reads. And so getting 7,100 is fantastic, and 6,380 on the writes is also fantastic. And again, this should be 2 terabytes of storage. And it is 2 terabytes of storage. Okay, now, when it comes to heat dissipation and noise, I do hear a fan running. It's very subtle. It's not in any way disruptive or what I would define as loud or distracting. The air conditioning is running. We're having 117-degree days all throughout this week. So 117 Fahrenheit. Hottest June on record. Las Vegas has had several days of 115 or above. I think they've broken a record. So we're running the air conditioners, what I'm trying to tell you. All right, let's bring up Cinebench and our hardware info. I did not run these so previously, but I am confident this thing should be good. Should sail through this. With our history with Geekom and seeing how they have handled the heat on previous models, I expect this to perform very similarly. Let's move this over here. Yikes. Need to do that. Bring this down. And up we go. That right over there. Just like that. And our CPU core temperatures, let's expand that. It looks like we're idling maybe a little bit higher than normal here at the 40s. Sometimes you'll see the 30s. The smaller the package with the higher end processors, they're just going to run warmer. That's just physics. Let's go to Crystal, not Crystal. Let's go to Cinebench R23. Double click it. There it goes. Okay. Accept. Start. We run the 2 tests here. We do the multi-core test, and then we do the single core. Now, the single core obviously is going to have a lower rating when you're only using 1 core. But during the first 60 seconds of each of these 2 tests, which will run for 10 minutes, by the way, we want to watch our core temps. And it looks like we've already hit 100 degrees Celsius, which is too hot. I can also hear the fan cranking up. And what this is telling us is that out of the box, Geekom has set this for maximum performance. And if you were to use it in this way, you may not be happy with it. I mean, if you're somebody that's going to throw this much resource-intensive power at it, it's going to throttle. It absolutely will throttle, and that fan is absolutely going to get loud. Now, this is very unusual. In our experience with Geekom, we don't typically see this behavior. However, I think it might be fair to say we're not using it as Geekom intends. Let me stop this test because we've already maxed out that temp, and there's no reason to take it any further. Let's start the single core just to see what that does. And we'll watch this area here, this left side. It's going to show us our current temp, okay? This is our maximum temp that we've achieved, and that should be momentary. It shouldn't just sit there at these high temps indefinitely. AMD's 8000 series chips want to run at 95 degrees Celsius at all times. That's going to be some serious CPU degradation. And if you're replacing your CPU every couple of years, that's not going to really affect you. But if you're planning on having a computer for a long time without replacing it, you definitely don't want to degrade the lifespan of your CPU by overvolting it and having it run hot regularly, right? These idle temps are very important. And the idle temps here on the left, or in this case, these are our current temperatures is what I mean to say. This should be your normal. And then these very, very hot extremes should be extraordinarily temporary. They should not be sustained over a long period of time. It is going to annoy you with the fan noise, and it is going to degrade the life of the CPU. So that is a little concerning. And I mean, we see 91, what was that? It's too far away for me to read. I expect, and it's hard to know without resetting the software again, if we've already hit 100 on the single core. But knowing that we can hit it on the multi-core is definitely something to be aware of. And I mention this because I want to set realistic expectations. If you take a perfectly fine automobile and you start abusing it, let's go back over to full screen. If you start abusing a sedan, let's say you've got a nice Buick, I don't know, and you decide you want to take it off-roading or run it through a flooded street that's got water 3 feet deep, you're going to ruin that car because you're using it in a way that it was not intended. There are vehicles that are designed for off-road and deep water usage. A Cybertruck, the new Hummer, any Hummer, other four-wheel drive capable vehicles. You might say, well, those are very expensive. Well, of course they are. They have to be built to take on abuse that a normal sedan is more about comfort. And these tools, these computers that we use, the reason there's so many to pick from, i3s and i5s and i7s and i9s and minis and micros and full-size towers, depends on how you want to use it. In the same that when you go to buy an automobile, you can buy a sports car, a hybrid, an electric, a minivan, a full-size van, a pickup truck, a four-wheel drive. It goes on and on and on and on and on. There's a lot of variety. And it's for you to decide what's the best value or what is your highest need. So people that have a lot of money, they just get what they want or whatever they need. For the rest of us, we have to make a compromise between how much we're willing to spend and how much we're willing to give up. What are the limitations in our budget, and how will that translate to limitations in what we want? Most of us have to make that compromise. What I don't want to convey to you is what you often see in a lot of review videos, is emphasizing all the positives and not mentioning the potential negatives. If there's a potential negative, I want you to be fully aware of it, because that negative may mean nothing to you, or it may mean everything to you. So I want you to have the information so that if you decide to buy one of these, or you decide not to buy one of these, you feel confident that you've made the right decision and not regret it later. I think that's just full disclosure in the way every review should be personally. And so long as other people in general aren't doing that, I'm going to make sure that I keep doing it for the very reason that others en masse are simply not offering full disclosure. Now, that's not a ding against Geekom here. The folks over at Eledon just flat out said, if your viewers are wanting something like that, tell them not to buy a mini PC. I mean, they flat out said it. And I'm like, well, that's what I've been telling them. You know, I'm already saying, if you're somebody that's an intense power user, I can't think of a mini PC for you. I don't think one exists that will reasonably withstand the kind of versatility that and control that you'll have over a desktop. For example, if you're having heat problems, you just buy a bigger cooler, buy a liquid cooler. The desktop offers you an opportunity to keep spending your money. Okay? With a mini PC, you're gonna pretty much be limited with how much you can spend with regards to RAM, storage, and your Wi-Fi card. That's all you can do. You're not going to be changing any CPUs, coolers, graphics cards, power supplies. You're not going to put it in a different case. And in that way, if you're somebody who's easily susceptible to suggestion, it could be very easy for marketing companies to convince you that now that you've bought the thing, you should buy the accessories for the thing. And now that you got the accessories for the thing, you should buy better things for the thing. Bigger, better monitor, better speakers, better keyboard, better mouse, better cooler, better graphics card, more RAM, more storage. It never ends with a desktop until you decide you want to stop. For those of us that have impulse control issues, and for those of us that realize that we spent money we didn't need to spend for items we didn't need because we bought into the hype, buying any mini PC is going to limit the options for upgradability, removing that temptation. So on the one hand, depending on your personal values, you may see that as a negative thing, or you may see that as the best thing ever. And again, that's why full disclosure is so important. Not every car is a good fit for every person, and not every mini PC or desktop PC is a perfect fit for every person. That's why you don't see me using Apple. You don't see me using Dell or HP, except on those little 1-liter PCs. Because they're all built to say, everybody, this is one size fits all. This is what Apple does. This is what all your big system integrators do. There's no real customization. You get what everybody else has. It's very socialism. You know, it's like we're all equal and we're all the same and we all have the same needs and we all get the same with some very minor differences. And in Apple's case, they charge you a premium to make all these decisions for you, which again, I find offensive. So in the world of mini PCs, my personal opinion, this is amazing. I cannot get over, first of all, I'm having a hard time getting past the size of it. It is super, super tiny. Secondly, when something that small shows up, I expect it to be maybe an i5. You know, that would be reasonable. And if it were, it probably would not have, you know, heat issues. On the other hand, I'm okay with those temperatures because I wouldn't be using this like that. This would also be overkill if I wanted to have a streamer, like a home theater PC, way over the top, unnecessary. You could spend half the amount of money and accomplish that with a machine with half the power. And even that would be overpowered. You know, you can get yourself a $40 Fire Stick from Amazon and be done with it. What this is a great universal desktop replacement for every single task you can imagine, with the exception of some gaming, which may be limited due to the onboard graphics. Well, it will be limited. Whether or not that limitation is acceptable to you, I can't say, depending on the game, the version, and settings of the game that you prefer. This machine will edit my videos. This machine will render things. And yes, this machine will sometimes, when doing those resource-intensive tasks, need to throttle. But what it won't do, or what it shouldn't do, is crash. We want throttling to occur in those scenarios because the throttling is what's saving your computer and your data from being lost. On the other hand, if we never throttle, then we're not getting all of the performance the CPU can deliver. So it's okay if we're just throttling a little bit here and there. It's like when you're, again, we're going to use the driving example. Sometimes it's necessary to put your foot down all the way to the floor in order to avoid an accident or to pass somebody. But it's not typically left that way the vast majority of time that you're driving. It would make stopping very difficult, turning corners very difficult. And if you were to run into any issues, the damage would be far, far magnified than if that incident were to happen at a slower speed. The incident wouldn't be as serious, wouldn't cause as much damage. So it's okay to get those little spikes, the turbo. That's normal. And it's normal for a car, just as it's normal for a computer. To expect it to run at full blast all the time, you should not be looking at a mini PC, period. If that's what you're after, there is no mini PC on the market yet that can handle that comfortably on a flagship processor. Maybe on an i5, But then one would argue, why not just get an i7 that doesn't have to work that hard and can outperform that i5 when it's maxed out? So in that way, the logic of it doesn't make any sense why anybody would do that. So with few exceptions, a mini PC like this is probably way overkill for your needs. The good news is, because it's so overkill today, that means it's likely going to be very useful to you for many years. The more you get today, the more you can put off needing to upgrade or replace it. Some people will buy a $300 computer and then need to replace it every 3 years. Other people will buy a $1,200 computer and not replace it for 8 years. Who got the better value there? The guy buying the $300 computer 4 times, or let's say 3 times, versus the guy buying the $1,200 computer once and then keeping it twice as long. I would say, for the frustration, the aggravation, the anxiety, having to react to a scenario, to reduce all of those unwanted feelings, I would get the best I can get today, even if I wasn't quite sure how to pay for it. Putting it on a credit card and making those payments is still going to save you money versus just getting what you can afford today. That's why credit exists. So if I had the anxiety of having a monthly payment due on a computer I'm very happy with, in theory, I should have that credit card paid off and still be using this computer for years and years and years without any problems, in theory. The cheaper computer, in theory, you'll just have to keep replacing. And every time you replace it, you got to reset it up. You have to make another decision. You have to stop everything you're doing. You might need to get adapters, figure out how to move your programs over, reinstall programs, move your data, reset up your email, reset up your printers. And you're going to repeat this every 3 years, not because you want to, but because one day it just isn't going to work. You're out of warranty. It's done. It was cheap. The manufacturer didn't make any money on it, so they don't care if you buy another one or you don't. So you go, okay, well, I got another $300. That's my budget. You end up just in the same cycle that never ends. You're constantly stressed out and probably have a bad attitude towards computers, right? If all you do is buy 20-year-old cars that have not been well maintained, and so your whole life, all you're doing is putting more and more money into keeping the car running, you're being interrupted and disrupted when the car won't start or fails to get you where you want to go, and now it disrupts your plans, it alters your appointments and schedule. And then you realize once you get a brand new car under warranty, or any car with a warranty on it, all of that anxiety you've been carrying on your shoulders unknowingly isn't there anymore. And for me, I didn't realize I was carrying all that weight on my shoulders. I thought there was no way I could afford a new car. Come to find out, the car payments on the new car were less than the amount of money I was spending on parts to keep the old car running month after month. Not to mention, I was doing all the work and I had all this burden I was carrying with regards to, is it going to start? Is it going to get me there? What's going to break next? How much is that going to cost me? And since I couldn't afford to have anybody fix it, I had to fix it myself, which means whatever plans I had were superseded by, there's nothing I can do until I get the car fixed. So everything has to stop. But a new car I couldn't afford. What I learned was I should have bought a new car much earlier and figured out a way to make those payments, because I always figured out a way to buy the parts I needed for the car. There was always a way. If I wanted to use that car, I found a way to get those parts, to generate the revenue I needed to pay for those parts. I still had to do the work myself. And if that work required a tool I didn't have, once again, now that job, which has postponed whatever I was going to do with the car, that's been postponed. Now the job to repair the car has been postponed because I have to go have a friend take me to the parts store so I can buy the tool I need. And if the tool's expensive, I got to find the money for that. With the new car, I just have to come up with that monthly payment. It's not a guess. What's it going to be this month? The same as it was last month. When's it going to be due? The same time it was due last month. Is there a problem with it? Take it to the dealer. If the car won't start, it's under warranty. They come pick it up on a tow truck at no charge on a new car for the first couple of years. It's not my problem. what a relief that was. If that was a lesson I had only learned earlier. And you're going to find the same is true with computers. Generally speaking, when you're buying from a known name brand and you're buying at their mid to top tier line, you should have a very good experience with reliability, with support, and furthermore, probably not really even need support. The cheaper machines are the most troublesome, most costly for the manufacturers to make. They're the most costly for the end users to buy because they end up not lasting very long. They end up creating a lot of distress. And it can sour people on computer. They think all computers are that way. Well, all $300 computers mostly are. And it's not to say this happens to all $300 computers, but if you were to look at the statistics and talk to people, I think you'll find that the most unhappy computer users with the most problems, the most frustrations, are running a computer that was low end or a computer that is more than 10 years old. Those are the people who have the most amount of frustrations because they won't spend the money to either buy something good to begin with. It doesn't have to be the best, just something that's not at the bottom of the barrel. And then on top of that, won't accept why, if it worked yesterday, why it doesn't work today, that there's any value difference. They think they're being smarter by spending less when they're really just doing it to themselves. Statistically, most people with computers that are 10 years or older or $300 or less when they were new are unhappy and frustrated with their computer much more so than people who buy mid-range and higher-end machines, especially if you built it yourself or if it's from a name brand manufacturer. And these are just general statistics. There's always exceptions. But if the manufacturer sold you a $300 computer, they didn't make much money on it. So if you threatened to say, oh, I'm never going to buy one of your computers yet, who cares? But if you bought a $3,000 computer, and this is true with cars, the customer service is going to be better. Somebody's got to pay for the customer service. And there's got to be some financial risk to the company that they could be losing a good customer versus just a customer. If you're the kind of customer that drops $3,000 on a computer, they don't want to lose you. There's also more profit, making it more affordable for them to be able to offer that support. If you buy the low tier, you're pretty much on your own, and the company doesn't care about you. Whether you buy it or you don't buy it, they're only making a couple of dollars. So they're not going to spend more than they made to satisfy you as the customer. If they raise the price to offer you the kind of support you want on that low end, it wouldn't be low end anymore. It would go from a $300 to a $400 or $450 machine. Then you'd say it's too expensive and not buy it. So you've got to pick one or the other, or you're going to be upset because you have unrealistic expectations. If I buy a Rolls Royce, or if I even buy a Ford Lincoln, and I take it to the service shop and I am treated and ignored the way that I was treated and ignored at the Chevy dealership and the Hyundai dealership, Lincoln and Rolls Royce would be potentially losing a lot of money if I vowed to never buy another one. But Chevy and Hyundai, they don't care. They're not making enough money on the car. You know, we'll get to you when we get to you. Too bad, so sad. That's been my experience. Let's take a look here in the chat, see what I've been missing here. David Graham says, wait till you get a load of the Atom Man G7 PT. Yeah, I think Minis Forum is sending us one for review. Mara's saying the flooring's about done in Studio C. Not exactly true. Studio C is part of the first floor, and the whole first floor has to be done with the same flooring. So 1/3 of that first floor is Studio C. The other 2/3 haven't even started yet. So we got a long way to go on the flooring. But at least as far as the studio is concerned, and it's still not done because there's still trim and baseboards that have to be put on. But regardless of that, it gets us one step closer to getting in the studio, being able to start broadcasting from there. So that's all good news. It is progress. It's far from done. I think she's a bit premature in suggesting it was done. Still, even in the studio, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done to the floor. As I mentioned, baseboards, trim pieces, T-moldings. I mean, that's fairly minor work compared to ripping out the old floor, getting the foundation smooth and level. But that's just 1/3. Still a long way to go. But yes, the studio area is getting closer, which is good. All good news. Still a lot of work, though. All right. We can open this up and see what it looks like on the inside. I imagine it's going to be the same as the pictures. Let's see how it opens. Let's go back to our... How do I want to do this? Let me go back to the screen capture for a minute. I don't know why I was thinking this was 12th gen. I guess maybe the DDR4 was throwing me because 13th gen should be DDR5. So I want to verify what this has. I also want to verify that the i7 model is also 13th because I swear I saw 12th. Let's jump back there and just double check these things. Let's see, that's our HDMI input. Let's go to our window capture. So Amazon says, okay, they're both 13th gen. And it does say DDR4. The one we're using here is the i9, 13th gen. DDR4. That is so unusual. Okay. I don't know why they would not be using DDR5. On a higher end machine, DDR5 can be a noticeable difference. On a mid-tier machine, DDR4 or 5 is probably negligible. So I don't understand why on a 13th gen we would be running DDR4 unless it's an error. So let's open it up and verify that's what it's got in there. That's what I say. So let me go back to camera 1 and we'll turn on the close-up camera. Let me bring the close-up camera down. Move it over here. Oops, wrong way. And turn this on. Adjust this to be just like that, I'm guessing. Of course, I have to power this off, so let's jump back over to the HDMI input really quickly. And right-click, full screen for me. Let's close this out. Close that out. Shut this down. Then let's go to the close-up camera, which I hope is on. And we'll bring the PC over here and unplug everything, including our dongle for the keyboard and mouse. And we can zoom in a little bit here. And you still see my grilled cheese fingerprints that are going to take a little bit of Windex to get off of there. All right, now on the other Geekom models, these feet, were these stuck in or just clicked in? A little of both. We have a little bit of sticky goo along with a little lip that goes in to the little holes on the sides. So that way, if your glue gets weak, your feet don't fall off. It's never fun when your feet fall off. Now I'm just trying to get a fingernail under one side and pull it away. A smaller screwdriver would probably make my life easier. Let's see what we got here. I should also put on my glasses so I can see. All right, let's see. My life any easier? I don't want to tear the feet. Maybe a smaller flat blade. Okay, there's another one. All right, there's our 4 feet. We've got an arrow indicating the front. Right there, the front of the unit. So when you put the bottom back on, you know how to orient the direction. Four screws. Normal tiny screws, not like the other day when they were 2 inches long. Now they don't give us anything to lift this up. There's no pull tab, there's no lip. But what we can do is stick like one of these small flat blade drivers right into one of the holes that the feet, the little rubber on the feet goes into. And we should be able to just pry it up from there. Be very careful, as sometimes there are wires, like for the Wi-Fi attached here. And yes, we do have a Wi-Fi antenna here that would be very easy to tear. They're pretty thin wires, they're very easily damaged, so be mindful of that. Now, again, we've got an arrow indicating the front for taking this plate off. Now this plate is going to give us cooling for our NVMe and our RAM, but there's no fan in here. All we have is a heat sink, and then our airflow is going to be dependent on the holes on the sides. This little metal shield, that's for our SD card reader. So if we go to these 4 screws now, we can expect there to be some thermal tape underneath this. Right here, you see this rectangle? That's probably where the thermal tape is on the other side. Then we have this cushion, which I guess is to reduce vibration, perhaps from the fan when it ramps up. I think these screws are all the same, but I keep them segregated away from each other because I want to put the same screws back just in case. We do have some tape that has to be removed right here. That's holding our Wi-Fi antenna down and out of the way. So we'll just move that over here temporarily. That back. Okay. Now, when it comes to removing this with the thermal tape here, you're going to want to kind of wiggle and lift at the same time, and it should come off clean. Be careful not to snag this Wi-Fi cable. We'll move that away from this lip. Boy, it really wants to rip that out of there if you're not careful. And when we flip this over, there's our thermal tape. Yeah, pretty much right where that indentation is. That's for our NVMe. This is our 2242 slot here. We've got an Acer 2 terabyte NVMe drive, and our RAM is verified as DDR4. So again, I would expect DDR5 on a 13th gen. especially on an i9. See if I get the camera to focus on this. Yes, no? Bueller? Come on. Not gonna do it? Could do it. I'd have to zoom it in. Back it away, I mean. Let's try that. Well, it's definitely not a macro camera, I can tell you that. So we've got 2 sticks of DDR4 I don't know who this manufacturer is. You guys might be able to read that better than me. Can't really tell. However, you've got your 2 DDR4 sockets here. Underneath the M.2 drive, we should have our Wi-Fi card, which I would expect should be upgradable. Let's check that out next. There's our Acer NVMe drive. So let's say, for example, you wanted to put Linux on this and you didn't have a MediaTek driver. You could simply very easily get to this Wi-Fi card. It's an M.2 Wi-Fi card, and put in any brand and model you wanted to and just hook those antennas up. So that'd be an easy thing to resolve. Of course, USB ports are also available for any USB network interface card. And Dwayne says he's craving a grilled cheese sandwich all of a sudden. Well, that's coincidental, isn't it? Just looking through the chat here to see if I've missed any questions or anything here. Gary wants to know if they're ever going to stop putting feet on top of the screws. We've seen several mini PCs that don't do that. But certain manufacturers are sort of known for it. When we look at the machines from Ace Magic, from Geekom, and from Minis Forum, we frequently see they're still, more often than not, covering up the screws with the rubber feet. But not always. I think we've seen some Minis Forums machines that did not hide the screws like that. I can't tell you which models they were, but more than not, we do see that they're putting the rubber feet over the screws. You know, these are not enthusiast machines in the sense of customization, and it does require a different set of expectations in the regard of user serviceability because of their compact size and limited upgrade path. What ends up happening is we tend to get a lot of viewers on YouTube that are enthusiasts, that are people that are not a typical end user. Your typical end user is not watching videos like this, even though I really intend for them for typical end users. I can't make them interested, you know. But what ends up happening is we get a lot of people vocalizing in the chat room about enthusiast topics that are not representative of the public in general. And as a result of that, you know, the manufacturers are catering to who's buying, the bulk of who's buying. And if the bulk of who's buying these machines are enthusiasts, then they will be designed for enthusiasts. And if the bulk of these machines are being sold to common end users, then they're going to be designed for common end users. So, you know, is it their fault that you're buying a consumer device intended for a consumer, but setting enthusiast expectations on it? Is that fair? Or could you say you bought the wrong thing for your needs? Instead of forcing them to accommodate you, you as the enthusiast should know enough about what you're buying It's different from an average consumer who doesn't always know what they're buying, right? We can throw them a bone, but does the enthusiast have an excuse to be disappointed, or should they know better? Now, if it's something that's promoted to enthusiasts, that's a different story. It would be like me going to Arby's as a vegan and complaining they have the meats. Maybe that's just not a place I should be dining. I don't expect Arby's to accommodate me specifically, but rather whoever's doing the buying, right? So if everybody's buying vegan meals, then obviously Arby's will start to accommodate. It's not personal. They're just trying to stay in business. And so who's at fault if a vegan wants a vegan menu to go to a restaurant known for selling meat? At that point, who's the one that should be upset at who, I suppose, is what I'm trying to say. Like, you should know what to expect at that level. Okay. Now, just before I put the screws in, if there's any questions you guys have about the unit that may require me to pull it back apart, let me ask now. Jason H88 said, I have an Asus Prime X299 motherboard. I wish I could turn off RGB on the motherboard in the BIOS. I have it in solid black. See the RGB through the case fan vent holes. You know, on the ASRock that we were looking at, was it yesterday or the day before? When I updated the BIOS, it defaulted back to turning the RGB on the board, and that's a blackout build. And the control for the RGB is in the BIOS, but you have to look for it. Once you know where to look for it and you see it, you realize it's been there all along. I can't help but wonder if maybe, Jason, you're in the same scenario, that it is there and you're just not seeing it. Have you tried Googling for that information just to see? Or maybe going on YouTube and seeing if somebody's got a video showing how to do that? Because that would be the first thing I would try. Is the unit DDR5 compatible? There's no such thing as being DDR4 and DDR5 compatible. You can only be one or the other. So the answer to your question is no. This has DDR4. Any unit that takes DDR4 will not take DDR5. And the same is true the other way around. Maybe the next sandwich I compare the next Geekom Mini to shouldn't be so greasy. The fingerprints, they're really bugging me. But, you know, they come off super easy. I just have a dry paper towel and it ain't doing it. It's going to have to be something wet that's going to take that off of there. Be able to walk around Studio B and see what I've touched. Yeah, Carey touched that. It's like a trail of breadcrumbs, but it's greasy fingerprints on everything. Oh, you know what I didn't do? I just realized I didn't put this little piece of tape back on. Not that I have to, but I mean, let's do it right. Not a big deal. Not a big deal to take it back apart. Okay, that's better. Not that, listen, I don't want to make a big deal about it. It's just the unit is brand new. And I'd like to keep it that way as long as possible. Leslie Cabins joins us and says hello. Welcome in, Leslie. So when I'm putting these feet in, I stick one edge in first, and then I push the entire foot back so it kind of bumps up in the middle, so we can get it far enough back for that other rubber foot to fit into the hole in the side, and then stick it down. There we go. And then we can plug it all back in and make sure we haven't broken it. Sure we haven't. Best way to know. The best way to be absolutely positive is to not assume. Yep, we're back up and running. That was a fast boot too. Okay. So again, a super shout out and thank you to our friends over at Geekom sending the unit to review. It is not without some conditions, some limitations. And those limitations will include the DDR4 RAM, which isn't that much of a limitation, but a limitation nonetheless. Also, the fact that it's going to run hot under a very heavy resource intensive load, such as the Cinebench test that we ran and already got it to hit that 100-degree throttle point. It's not designed to do that kind of work. So it would be unrealistic to be upset that it doesn't do something it was never designed to do to begin with. Unfortunately, they don't really come out and say that. So we have to do these reviews because marketing is only going to tell you the good stuff, right? Why would you hire a marketing company that emphasizes the limits, right? They don't want to promote it that way. Now, depending on how you use your computer, I don't know that such a thing exists as a computer that doesn't have some kind of limits. The questions are, do these limits apply to you or do they not matter? And for the price, are these limits acceptable? But I can assure you, the computer you're using now has limits. And the older the computer is, the more limited it is, and you're just willing to live with it. The more money you spend, the more demanding you can get. And also, the unit would have to be physically larger in order to accommodate the things such as the type of cooling it would need to do that kind of work, to accommodate the DDR5 RAM. We'd have to have a bigger case. That would also add to the expense, and that means the unit would be more expensive. So you've got to weigh what it costs with what it has, with what it can do, versus how much money you want to spend and what you want it to do. And at the end of the day, whatever decision you come to is right for you. Ooh, that's really carbonated. Okay, so let me just look again back through the chat, see if I've missed any other questions, or if you have any questions for me, regardless if it's related to the Geekom or not, happy to address that. This chat has been so much better by making it members only. And the problem we have is, you know, they say a rotten apple spoils the whole barrel or something like that. Well, the vast majority of our viewers, be it members or not, are very kind people and well-intentioned people. We have a very small percentage that are extraordinarily vocal, disruptive, distracting, and entitled, meaning they feel like they're owed something. And when I started this channel, I did not know that I was going to be an unpaid babysitter for somebody else's unsupervised children. And I never signed up for that. I'm never okay with that. And it just takes a couple of children or childlike behaviors to spoil the entire chat room. And I don't know if you can tell, but I don't feel as defensive. I don't feel as though somebody is joining us and asking us a question we've answered 25 times before, or is completely off topic and asking a question that's, what's the word I want? Inappropriate. Because that can spoil my mood, which overall spoils the whole tone of the video. So for the quality sake of the video and for the vast majority of viewers, I'm doing this for you as well as for me, so that our overall feel of the video is far more friendly and less defensive. And so far, I think you can see the results for yourself. This has worked out much less stressful for me. So I can't thank you enough for being members. Leslie Cavan says 24 months finally. Well, I don't see the 12 turn to a 24 yet. That is, the badges that next to your names, they'll stay at 12 and the next badge is 24. So hopefully if you're at 24, you will get that 24 badge. And thank you so much for being a member for 24 months. Now everybody wants grilled cheese. Well, the idea was you were supposed to want the Geekom, but that's okay. I don't make a commission on it. So if you buy that, certainly Geekom, by using our coupon code, it lets Geekom know that we're having an impact on their sales. But we're not paid to make the review. There's no money ever that's exchanged between myself and Geekom. They send us the unit. They ask us for an honest review. That's the extent of our agreement. We ask them to give you guys a discount. We ask you to use the discount, even if you can get the same discount somewhere else, that we get credit that we directed you to the sale, even though we will not make a commission on it. I suppose if you use our Amazon link, we'd make a small commission. But otherwise, it's just to let Geekom know it's worth sending us these units to review if it can result in some sales that they can verify originated from us. But nothing you're obligated to do, right? But that's the inner workings of how this is put together and why we can't afford to just do this. We have to do other things. Otherwise, the cost of the video, you know, it puts me in a negative financial situation. Keeping the machine is all well and good, but how many of these do I have now? So in that way, we like to continue to stay on top, try to be the first with new innovative products when applicable, but not all the time. And appreciate the cooperation of quality companies that I personally have no qualms about recommending. I think Geekom makes a good, solid product at a fair price. And I think, you know, and tell me if you've got a Geekom product, how you feel about it, because, you know, what I feel about it only matters if you're buying it from me and you're counting on me for support. If you've bought a Geekom product now or in the past, I'd love to hear if it's something you would recommend. to the people that you know. What's your experience been? Let us know in the comments. Jose Lopez with a $1 super chat. Thank you, Jose. And Raj D contributes £5. Thank you, Raj. Let me go all the way back to the beginning here. Jose Lopez with $2 super chat said, Carey, my subscription is paying me back. Not sure what that means. Let's see. Scrolling. Chris Johnson renews membership, now a member for 26 months. Captain Blinsky became a supporter. Avery Ramsdorf is a supporter here now for 6 months. Our friend William Denton, thank you for your super chat contribution. Lou Greeny said, I'm amazed they can keep that thing running cool. Not only is it cool, it's whisper quiet. Well, it's idling, or, you're doing, like, let's say you were doing normal things people normally do most of the time with their computer, which is answering emails, watching videos, paying some bills, visiting some websites, whisper quiet. It's only when you really throttle it down. I suppose the space shuttle was the same way, during launch, that thing was super loud. Once it got up into space, whisper quiet. Even landing, whisper quiet. Kind of the same thing. It's not meant to be throttle up 100% of the time. Otherwise, the space shuttle would be somewhere close to Voyager 1 at this point, I think. Voyager 1? Andy Kane says hello. Keep losing my spot. I think I'm going to have to go over here and do it this way. Welcome again to Mark Staley, Alan Latz, and Mike Ely for becoming members. I'm caught up. I don't think I've missed anyone's question, but if I have, please ask it again because I'm not seeing it. I think that catches us up. It's pretty quiet now, so I have to assume I haven't missed anything. Always uncertain because of the delay. All right. Well, with that, I think that'll wrap up today's video. Yesterday's video, just to talk about that for a second, wasn't happy with the power supply. I wasn't happy with the case, and I've got a motherboard that doesn't want to turn on.
And what I think I'm going to do is off camera, see what's going on with that motherboard, or switch the board out. I've got a lot of boards sitting around here that they're already prepped. They already have CPU, cooling, storage, RAM, operating system. The power supply, I'm on the fence about the power supply. I'm not sure I really want to use that. I'm saddened because I have been okay with Silverstone products. I've not been super enthusiastic, but I also haven't been avoiding them. But that may be one I avoid. FSP products in general, I'm just not. I don't feel comfortable offering, recommending, or even talking about FSP products because I can't think of one they've come out with that I've approved. I was hoping over the time span that, things change and maybe they got better. It looks like more of the same. I don't think we're going to see any more FSP products on this channel for some time. Nothing against the good people at FSP, some fine people, but the products, they're just falling short of my expectations. And if I won't recommend it to a customer that I have to be held accountable for, I'm not going to recommend it to you. I still appreciate the fact that they sent it to us for us to review. And I know enough now, especially consistently over time, of I don't think they're ever going to meet our level of expectation. Geekom, on the other hand, has never let us down. So I look forward to seeing what they have next. They just keep getting better and better, and the value for what you get for the money just keeps getting more and more attractive with each generation. You keep getting more for the same or less money than the previous. And again, I can't get over just how tiny this is. It is incredibly small and very attractive unit, by the way. I don't know how the metal casing might affect the Wi-Fi range, but if that happens, you can always, if that's an issue for you, I should say, you can always get a USB Wi-Fi adapter and plug it in. Just don't use the one that's built in. Having external Wi-Fi antennas might be something they consider. We've seen some of the HP minis and Lenovo mini 1 liter PCs. Some of them have the external antennas, or they at least have one. Now we understand why they do that. Anytime you're dealing with a metal casing with a wireless antenna inside behind the metal shield, you should expect it to impede the distance or the range of that Wi-Fi. It's one of the worst things you can do to your Wi-Fi signal is put a big metal shield between it and your router. So just keep that in mind from any PC manufacturer, especially if they're touting that really nice refined metal casing. You're making a sacrifice for one thing that you would prefer over the other. The only way you can do both is you have to move the antennas to the other side of the metal shield. And that's just, again, that's physics. There's nothing else. It's not like Geekom's doing anything any differently than anybody else that wants to offer those options. They'll also suffer the same potential downside for those options. So if we had any advice for Geekom, we'd like to see DDR5 on an i9. We'd like to see an external antenna. And we'd like to be able to run Cinebench R23 without it getting greater than 95 degrees Celsius. Now, there may be some settings in the BIOS. We haven't looked at it yet. Sometimes there are manual settings you can adjust in the BIOS that can tell it, don't let it get hotter than this. And that doesn't change the cooling. I'd like to see the maximum temperature without any predefined BIOS setting. Have the cooler be able to reach that on its own as a maximum temp. And that just means more aggressive cooling, but that also means likely a bigger case. The good news is there are some different style of coolers coming out for CPUs that are, at least in this point, they've been demonstrated at like Computex last year. I think they showed them off a little bit this year. I don't know how far away they are from the market, but if they ever hit the market, they're going to change cooling as we know it. And of course, with Intel's 15th gen chips, which are using chiplets, that's also going to change how the CPU heats up, because instead of just one monolithic die that everything runs on, you're going to have several little chips. Some of those little chips will run hotter than others. Overall, how does this affect real world usage? Will it overall run cooler or will it overall run hotter? We'll have to wait and see. Bajan guy said I was wondering about yesterday's upgrade. Yeah, I haven't had time to get back to it yet, but yeah, I am having second thoughts about the case, the power supply, and the motherboard. All three parts I used. And the reason those parts were here is because they kept getting pushed away for better parts. But I didn't think they were that bad. But now, maybe individually, if I used really good parts with one of the bad parts, it'd be an easier pill to swallow. But having all three parts that I have an issue with all combined into one system that I have an issue with, I'm better than that. It's well below my standard of acceptance that I would ever put my name behind. So again, maybe one of those things I could risk a little bit of my reputation, but to put all three of them together in the same case is an example of how to do it wrong. Like if you just don't care, if you've got no pride in your work and you're not held accountable, or you just don't care, which likely isn't going to make you a very sustainable business operation. That sort of represents, I'm talking about yesterday's video. The end result to me is that somebody didn't care. The people who built the case didn't care enough. The people who built the power supply didn't care enough. I don't know what's going on with the motherboard yet. That should be fine, but something's going on. The fact that it's 4 years old might be part of the problem, that it's been sort of out in the open and exposed to the elements, and that might have caused some damage since it wasn't properly protected in a case for years. On the other hand, maybe I wasn't paying close enough attention and I grounded it out somewhere. I don't know. But it's definitely nothing that I want to put my name by. I would never want anybody to know I built that. So it's likely going to get disassembled, and probably a different power supply, a different case, and a different motherboard and CPU, RAM, and storage are going to be used. So essentially negating the whole point of yesterday's video, other than perhaps being a review of that FSP case, which I don't think FSP is going to be happy with. But I don't make my reviews to make anybody specifically happy. I make them to be direct, to be honest, and I would hope that's what people will be happy about. Everyone but the person I'm talking, or the company I'm talking about in some cases. But it is intended to help them. It's intended that if they take the information and they utilize it and implement it, that they'll end up with a better product that in theory will sell better. But what do I know, right? It's just my opinion as a running a PC business, and what I put my name on, and what I'm proud to put my name on, and what I won't put my name on. For whatever that's worth to anybody other than me and my customers, I can't say. Yesterday, the computer was giving an unsupported signal error when I powered it on. So if you have a computer and you're turning it on and your monitor says unsupported signal, that implies to me that you're sending out like a 4K signal to an HD monitor that's maybe only 1080. Or you've got a bad monitor cable. And if you have a different monitor or television that you can temporarily plug that computer into, see if you get the same error on both. That might be one place to start. And if you have a different cable or a different video output that you can use on the back of the computer, that's another easy thing you can check quickly. All right, well, that'll wrap it up for me for today. Reminder, thank you to our friends at Acronis who continue to offer you guys a great solution for backups and cloning for hard drive replacements. Very, very affordable, very easy to use. If you're not familiar with it, we have thorough walkthrough videos with Acronis themselves. And the trial is free to download, fully working for, I think it's 15 days. Also, thank you to RoboForm. That's the password management software I've been using for at least 15, if not 20 years. It's all I ever use. Never had a problem with it. It's never caused a Windows crash. It's never been breached. And mostly they're blacklisted from review companies. I don't know why. I have no idea why, but when you read like PC World magazine reviewing password managers, they basically ghost RoboForm. And when I asked them why they did that, they said RoboForm's not paying us. And I said, I hope that's not true, because if what you're saying is your reviews are paid for, then they're not reviews, they're commercials. And I hope the FTC starts cracking down on that, both here on YouTube and on other social media sites, because PC World should be held to a higher standard for sure. So I don't know if that's true or not. In other words, the person who said that, I can't verify that came direct from PC World. But any review that's paid to do the review is now a commercial. Thank you to Mara, of course, for being our administrator and setting up today's video. She did that late last night with all the links and the thumbnail. More cooking with Carey taste testing with different pasta sauces is available on the Cooking with Carey channel. Very small channel. What's nice about having the small channel is without many views and without many viewers, you don't get much. If I don't get any harassment, zero. So those are kind of fun for me to make. Those are short little videos, just for me, for fun. And maybe you might like it if you haven't checked them out. And thank you to everybody who is, thank you to all of you here in the chat room for being members and for those super chat contributions. Let me check the phone real quick and we'll wrap it up, because that's going to put us right at the 2-hour mark perfectly. Who needs editing? Joe Martin sent an Amazon gift card for $25, and William Denton yesterday at the end of the show also sent an Amazon gift card. I'm sorry, a PayPal contribution of $25. So thank you to William Denton for that. Avery Ramsdorf sent an Amazon gift card for $5. He says, have a Gatorade on me and have a good day. Hope you enjoy the Amazon gift card. We have a very generous PayPal contribution from our friend Frankie B. Thank you as always to our friend Frankie. I think that covers us. So again, our friend Oystein in Norway, Frankie B out there in New York, and we'd be remiss if we didn't always mention our deepest gratitude and heartfelt appreciation to our friend Buster out there in Scotland. You guys make this channel exist. And without you, well, it wouldn't be what it is, and it may not even exist without you. So that's how important the role is that you play. And I can't thank you enough for it. That'll wrap it up for me for today. Again, another thank you to Geekom for sending us the unit for free in exchange for an honest review. I definitely give it a thumbs up. It's not perfect, but in the ways that it's limited, most people shouldn't even notice it. It's just those who are using their computer in an unusual way or in a non-common way that would have issues. And for those people, they generally will be happier building their own, just in general. So, all right, guys, that'll wrap it up for me. I will see you all very, very soon. Tomorrow, I don't think there's a video tomorrow, but definitely on Friday, 1 o'clock, we will be back live, as always on Friday. And chat will remain members only from this point forward, as far as I know. So far, I'm very well incentivized to keep this going. It's been much more pleasurable from my side. But people can continue to watch. They're not restricted from watching. I will hopefully see you all on Friday. Until next time, bye.